now we're in the final section. And this is very important. And I keep saying that, right? Everything is important when you want to improve as a presenter, because you want to go from where you were to where you could be as a professional speaker. So follow these ideas that I've shared with you, and now think about the proper preparation. Proper preparation to speaking is the same as a good recipe to cooking. You wouldn't start cooking without the recipe first. So follow my preparation ideas. The first thing, before you put the presentation together, don't start with slides, start with an outline. Outline the presentation. What's the key point? What do you want the audience to get from this presentation? What are the subpoints that will support that key point, that theme of the presentation? Outline it, chunk it out into different sections, and write key statements that you want to make. When you start thinking of the presentation this way and outlining it, it already starts to take shape. Once you have a good outline, then you can start to think about the opening. How do you want to open with a bang? You already have your ideas on that. How are you going to close it so that you achieve what you want to achieve in terms of the outcome? And then comes that important middle. Do you have any stories that you can share in the middle? Start to write down some of the story ideas that you have. This is all part of creating a strong outline and a presentation that takes shape before you ever create slide one. Now that you have a good outline, a question that often comes to me is, should you script out the presentation? Well, I don't really recommend that you write the presentation out word for word, because chances are you won't remember it word for word, and you're putting undue pressure on yourself when you're trying to remember a script. What I recommend scripting is the opening, the closing, and key stories and key data. Another part of preparation are the slides and the notes. Now with the slides and notes, you want to put down that key data. If you're using slides, it's okay to put the key data on the slides so you don't forget it. If you're not using slides, it's okay to have note cards. Some people feel like they need to remember everything. That's just not the case. The point is to get the information across that the audience wants out of the presentation. So if you're using note cards, just write down the key points on the note cards that you'd like to share. Or key statements around stories. You want to share this story during this part of the presentation, this story during this part of the presentation. So you're jogging your memory, and you already have the stories memorized, but you're remembering the flow throughout the presentation. If you have a lectern, then you may be able to place your note cards on the lectern. If you don't, you'll have to just hold them in your hand or in the pocket of a jacket that you might be wearing. In terms of preparing slides, we've talked about the content that should be on the slides, and the slides should support the presentation without being the star of the show. The slide should never be the center of attraction. You are. So in your preparation, don't make the slides the star of the show. Plan for yourself to be the star. Now, I recommend that you use a wireless remote when presenting with slides, because you can advance the slides from wherever you are. You don't need to be at the computer. And also there's a button on wireless remotes where you can darken the screen. That helps the audience to realize that you're the star when you darken the screen by using that magic button. Now you're finished with the preparation part of the process. You've put a great presentation together and you're feeling really good about it. And now let's go into rehearsal, because it's rehearsal that really makes a presentation great. This is the crucial part that makes you a professional versus an amateur. I'm going to share with you 4 different rehearsal techniques in this section. The first technique is the standard rehearsal that you're aware of, which is just standing and delivering. How many times should you rehearse though? Well, that depends on your comfort level with presenting. If you're a beginning speaker that's still dealing pretty strongly with nervousness and anxiety, you're going to rehearse many times, because being fully prepared is going to make you more confident. So you may want to rehearse 8, 10, 12, even 15 times. But if it's a longer presentation, like say an hour, well, that could be really difficult. So I recommend at a minimum 3 to 1. I learned this technique from Patricia Fripp, who was the first female president of the National Speakers Association. She said to rehearse at a minimum 3 times. and I've always followed that idea. So if it's an hour, you're going to rehearse for 3 hours. But what if it's a half-day workshop? That may be difficult. With a half-day workshop, what I recommend is to use technique number 2, which is the slide walkthrough. There's almost always a slide deck that goes with a half-day workshop. Sit down in front of a computer and look at the slides one by one, and don't say anything, just look and think. Where are you in the presentation? What are you going to say at that point? What do you want the audience to get out of that section of the presentation? Is it building towards that final outcome? Oftentimes when I do this slide walkthrough, I end up shifting the order of the slides, changing some of my content, and thinking differently about the presentation. It helps me to refine it and make it better. That's technique number 2. Technique number 3 takes us back to section 1 of this class, and that's the visualization technique. Visualize yourself going out on stage, giving the presentation the way you want, being masterful in your delivery, feeling good about the Q&A section, nailing the opening, the closing, and those strong stories that you've worked so hard to develop. Visualization is an important part of rehearsal, and I recommend that you use this technique in the week leading up to your presentation. Once a day, visualize. This should only take 3 to 5 minutes. Doesn't matter how long the presentation is, just visualize from beginning to end the presentation going really well. Technique number 4 is to rehearse in front of an audience or to a camera. This will help you to find out, is it as good as you really think? When you present it to an audience, they'll give you feedback. They'll tell you where they weren't really sure. They'll tell you if the stories are yeah or blah. When you watch yourself on video, you'll see if you're making any gestures that are unnatural, that don't complement the presentation. You'll hear if the content is smoothly flowing from opening all the way to end. And so that's bonus technique number 4 that will really help you to rise up and bring out a higher quality in your presentation. Follow these 4 techniques of rehearsal. Do the work, and you'll find that your progress in becoming a better speaker really accelerates. Well, here we are at the end of World Class Speaking the Basics. Congratulations for being one of the exceptional people that's gone through the class from beginning to end. But your journey doesn't stop here. What I recommend is 2 things. 1, go through the class again. Yes, I covered a lot of information here, and you couldn't have gotten everything. And remember, it's practice that makes you better. So take a few ideas out of the class and practice those ideas. Don't try to do everything at once. There's too much here for that. So take the class again, pull out a few ideas that you know will work for you, apply them, and get steadily better. This is the way to rise up and become a world-class speaker. Idea number 2 is to consider taking the Level 2 class. I share with you how to make your stories even better by following an actual formula. I share with you a proven speech structure that works in all kinds of presentations. I'll share with you the traits of a world-class speaker, all 12. Ways to engage the audience and mistakes not to make. Don't you wish I shared all this in this class? Of course you do, and I understand that. But I didn't want to overwhelm you with information. I wanted to make this class something that you could digest, understand, and apply to immediately become a better speaker. And once you've done that, I think you'll be joining me for the Level 2 class. So for now, I thank you, and I wish you the best in becoming a better presenter.